Have you ever experienced racism personally at Loyal?
I have. I've a good amount of instances happen to me and people I'm friends with. The things that have happened to my peers do upset me. I sometimes feel threatened when I hear things like that, or I experience things such as racist remarks and racist acts towards African Americans.
Not personally, but I have seen it going on a bit. Yes, I think when people of other races might assume I have certain attitudes toward them or about myself as superior because I'm white, that can be a form of racism, and no form of racism is fair. But on the other hand, it's expected. When your people is persecuted, oppressed for centuries, this stuff builds up and it can be difficult to get rid of. And I think it just takes a lot of patience and empathy to get over.
When I was in high school, I was with my African American friend. We were not allowed into a party because of his race. He was used to it, which boggled my mind. We were asked to leave and it enraged me. So I caused more of a scene, which made him more uncomfortable because I had never experienced that, and it was something that I was just, I'll never forget it.
Well, like a couple times at the lunch tables, I've heard people say things that they shouldn't, definitely. And you kind of want to say something, but then again, you want to just stay quiet and not make a huge deal about it.
My own personal experience as the subject or victim of racism is so minor and inconsequential, except as a reminder of how significant it must be for those who experience it on a daily basis. Because I know how it made me feel 2 or 3 different occasions. And again, that's in my lifetime, let alone 2 or 3 occasions in a day. I recognize my own personal experiences merely as a means of understanding and appreciating what other people have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, like, I live in Carroll County, so there's some people up there that don't have the same views as you, so I've experienced it quite a lot.
I will say this, I live in a community that's predominantly African American, and a lot of my friends are, my neighbors. There is some resentment from some people towards white in the neighborhood, but I understand why. You know what I mean? I can feel that. I can feel the reason behind that. It's a reality that's there because of a truth that's there, because of the inequities that are in our world.
Have you made an effort to explore the cultural differences of those who are different from you?
Not as much as I should, but definitely a little bit.
A little bit, but not as much as we should as a school and just as human.
Well, one of my best friends growing up is Hindu, and he goes to a completely different school. I'm just surrounded by different people all the time, and I like knowing other people because it gives me an insight to just what I'm missing out on, so to say.
Do you believe that anyone should be able to use the N-word?
Generally, no. I know there's a lot of difference between the way young African Americans feel about this word when used among themselves than, say, when their parents or grandparents used it. But in general, I feel there's so much negative energy around this term that it's kind of best left to the ash heap of history, so to speak.
No, not at all.
It's racist for anyone to say, honestly. It was a word that was created to oppress African Americans. And I know that some African American people may use the word, but that doesn't make it any more or less right. It's a word that we shouldn't use.
In my opinion, no. It just leads to conflicts and problems.
That word obviously is historically significant. Generally speaking, no, I would prefer not to hear that word outside of some academic context, outside of some historical context. That word and its use obviously has changed significantly over a century or two, century and a half. But I don't think it ought to be completely abolished because it reminds us of our history and steps that we've taken since the Civil War and beyond, and steps that we still need to take. So, should it be used in casual conversation? Absolutely not. Should it be discarded and taken out of our English vocabulary? No, I don't think so.
No, I believe African Americans because sometimes it's seen as like a term of endearment, but if it's used by someone else, as you can tell, it could be used in a different type of way. But all the time, it's not going to be reflective of what you're trying to say.
No,
No.
no, I think it's a horrible, horrible word.
I think African Americans, if they want to, they should be able to, because it's a kind of way of them like beating it and owning it in a way that they're above it. If they kind of want to call each other that in jest, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but that's it, But see, there's a kind of interesting dynamic there, because what they're doing with that is they're saying, look, this is not going to, this word is not going to beat us down. We're going to make fun of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing.
Do you believe that there is a racial issue at Loyola today?
Yeah, I do. There's racial issues in our culture, and obviously we're a small part of the broader picture, but
Do you think anything that can be done here at Loyola specifically to change that?
yeah, I think so. I certainly think, and we've already taken some positive steps to address it. I think open communication obviously is significant and important, and the fact that you guys are interviewing me about it right now indicates that we are taking steps, and I think appropriate ones.
I believe we have a racial issue in the United States and at Loyola. I think Loyola is just a small part of the big problem.
All right. Do you feel is there any way that we can combat that?
I think the only way we can combat it is to talk openly about it, and I think there's a lot of folks that don't feel comfortable admitting their own prejudices, opening up to other people from other races, other ethnicities. It makes them uncomfortable, and I think with that being true, it's harder and harder to combat it until we're able to talk openly and hear everyone else's struggles.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Do you think anything can be done to combat that and sort of try?
Well, I think everything you guys are doing, and Mr. Day and Mr. Marinacci, and just all the things we've been going through, I just think it's really, really wonderful. And I'll say this, their willingness to expose this stuff I was pretty amazed, because from the outside, you're going to have people looking down on the school and thinking, we're out of control racist or something. But from the inside, what happens from all this is all of us get closer and stronger. And the fact that they were willing to go through that, for me, that's a wonderful thing. In fact, I even had a couple students on this one day when we were doing this talk in homeroom. I had two different students, separately say to me, these were juniors. I was thinking about next year leaving the school, like going to another school. I'm not going to do that now. That's how they felt about it. This is the kind of power you get from being willing to confront something. It's really an important thing to be able to do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you, man. My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.